Welcome to Hash Your Rest. I'm really glad you're here with me. Tell me, how was your day? Was it one of those quiet ones? Or did it feel a little too full, a little too fast? Like you were just chasing the clock, trying to measure every second before it slipped away? Tonight, I want to tell you the story of an archaeologist, someone who spent a lifetime searching for answers in the dirt, only to find something that defies all logic, something that, well, it seems to be out of this world. Before we dive in, if you enjoy getting lost in these stories, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. It really helps me keep creating these spaces for you. Maybe we can take a closer look and see what was waiting for him on the other side. So, here I am. I didn't mean to touch a painting, but something on the other side noticed me. I can feel the wood under my hands. It's solid, smooth. It feels like this desk has been soaking up the sun all day, just for me. Everything in this room is bathed in a soft amber light. It's like the walls themselves are radiating the energy of a quiet afternoon. It's so quiet here. The light never seems to move, no matter how long I sit here. It's the kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels heavy. Heavy with the peace to find right before a long, deep recovery. And as I sit here, looking at the sketches on my table, I start thinking back. I remember how I arrived. I remember the world outside, the concrete, the noise, and that constant crashing weight of time. I remember the dust and how it seemed to follow me longer than it should. It started with a rumor. See, I was an archaeologist back then. My whole life was about measuring stone, dating all objects, always looking for a truth that was already buried in the past. It was exhausted, but not the kind of tired you feel after a long walk. It was fatigue deep in my soul. I had heard whispers in those small villages near the coast, stories about a place where the laws of physics simply paused. They call it the sunken villa. Some said it was a myth. Others, well, they talk about a gateway. Some of the stories didn't match, as if people remembered the place differently. They spoke of a specific work of art hidden in the heart of those ruins, a relic that didn't belong to our timeline. I didn't believe in magic, I believed in evidence. But curiosity, for a man like me, curiosity is a endless path. So I followed the trail. I remembered the day I looked at the side. The sun was setting, throwing long, distorted shadows over the broken columns. The rims were beautiful. They looked like they were waiting, not for night, but for something else. I walked through what used to be a grand hallway, my boots crushing under debris. Crunch, crunch. The air was dry. It smelled like ancient earth. Every step felt heavy, like the ground was inviting me to just stop. Then I reached a room with no ceiling, just the vast, darkening sky above me. And there, against a wall that should have fallen centuries ago, I saw it, the frame. It was clean, too clean, like it had never belonged to the ruins. The gold of the wood was glowing, like it was holding its own internal power source. I stepped closer, and for the first time in my career, my analytical mind went silent. It wasn't just a painting, it was a landscape of gold and blue. I saw towers reaching for a sky the color of a deep, refreshing reset. And then I saw the clocks, those famous melting clocks draped over branches. They weren't broken, which made no sense. Time doesn't rest. Yes, they were surrendering to the stillness. I looked at my own hands. They were covered in the dust of the rings. Then I looked back at the painting, and the sand inside seemed to shift. A soft breeze blew out from the canvas. I touched my face, and it felt familiar, like a memory I didn't remember living. I didn't think about my field notes. I didn't think about the life I was leaving behind. Every instinct I had told me to stop, and I realized I didn't want to listen. I only thought about how much I needed to cross that line. So I reached out. My hand didn't hit a cold canvas. It sank into the air. The air was thick, like warm water. I felt this pull in my chest, a silent invitation to explore. Something in the silence was waiting for me to understand. I took one more step forward. The stones of the rings began to blur. The rocks melted into the golden sand. The heavy air of the world outside was gone, replaced by a sudden electric stillness. I stepped through the frame. And as the world I knew disappeared behind me, I realized that the legends were wrong. This wasn't just a dream. It was an entire world without a map. A kingdom with its own rules. A vast, silent ocean of secrets. An impossible badness that felt like it had been waiting for me. I looked down at my feet, and I was no longer standing on stone. I was standing on light. The journey into the unknown has just begun. I'm in. My first instinct. It isn't wonder. It's cataloging. It's a defense mechanism, I guess. When an archaeologist faces the impossible, the first thing we do is reach for the ruler, the journal. I step across the frame's threshold, and my boots hit something I can't quite name. It's not sand. It looks like but there are teeny grains of light, like someone ground up the stairs and scattered them across the floor. I can feel the weight of my backpack, the familiar edge of my notebook in my pocket. It gives me a sense of security. So I stop and I adjust the strap. I do a 360-degree inspection, just like the protocol says. But this landscape, it's a challenge. There's no horizon, not a real one. Just the vast expansion of amber and gold, melting into a sky that looks like liquid mercury. There's no sun, but the light is everywhere, constant, casting no shadows. My brain is already trying to solve it. It is a bioluminescence. Is it some chemical property in the air? I pull out my flashlight. I don't even need it. But I turn it on anyway, out of habit. And the beam, it just swallowed by the air, like the atmosphere is eating the light. I start walking. I need reference points. I need to triangulate. But the structure here, they defy everything I studied. About 100 meters away, I see these columns. I approach them with a steady pace, counting my steps, calculating the scale. 1, 2, 3. My footsteps sound strange. There's no echo. The sound dies the moment it's born, absorbed by this velvet silence. I reach the base of one of the towers. I reach out. I touch it. I expect stone or maybe rusted metal. But my fingers find something cold, smooth, like glass. But it's vibrating, a rhythmic pulse, like it's responding to me. It's not a super beam. It's like an organic growth, a metallic stalk sprouting toward that liquid sky. I take out my magnifying glass. I get so close my breath fogs the surface. And beneath that outer layer, I see gears, thousands of them, tiny, as thin as hair, moving in perfect order. But they aren't made of steel. They look like they were carved from an amber and bone. No rust, no wear. This makes no sense. As an archaeologist, I look for decay. I look for the footprint of time, erosion, but this place feels new and ancient at the same time. I try to date the structure. I look at the base for the sediment or strata. Nothing. The column just emerges from the sand without a mark, as if it had always been there, or as if it appeared the second before I look at it. I decide to take a sample. I reach for my hammer, but I stop. Something in my gut tells me that breaking this crystal would be like wounding something alive. So I pull out my measuring tape instead. I need numbers. I need data so my mind can process this. I hold the tape against the base and I start walking backward. 10 centimeters, 20, 50, and then it happens. I keep walking. The tape stretches. But when I look at the column, I'm still at the same distance. I look at the tape. It says 3 meters. I look at my feet. I've moved away. I look at the column. It hasn't moved an inch. I shake my head. It's an optical illusion. It has to be. Refraction. The fatigue from the rims is messing with my head. I snap the tape shut. Lack of clear vanishing points. I write down. My handwriting is shaky. The eye cannot calculate distance here. I push deeper, searching for some logic in this studio. For a moment, I think I'm starting to understand the pattern, and that's why I see them. dozens of them, scattered like seashells washed up by the tide. I kneel down. It's a pocket watch, like the one my grandfather had. But the crystal is melted, flowing down the dial like honey. I pick it up. It's heavy, much heavier than it should be. The hands aren't spinning, they are twisting, like they are trying to pierce through the glass. I hold it to my ear, waiting for the tick tock, the heartbeat of my entire career. But there's not tick tock. There's a sound like a slow breath coming from inside the gears. I drop it. It hits the sand without a sound. My pulse is racing. I feel this pressure in my temple. The archaeologist in me wants to call this hallucinogen. Maybe there's a gases in the soil. Maybe the paint is toxic. I'm looking for an explanation, cause and effect. Subject presenting spatial disorientation. I detect to myself possible effect of monochromatic light on the nervous system. I walk faster. I need to find the edge of the room, the limit of the canvas. I need to walk a corner. Something to tell me I'm in a room and not an infinite void. But the faster I go, the denser the air feels, like walking through warm gelatin. I see more towers vibrating in emerald green. I try to run toward them, but my legs feel heavy, as if gravity is increasing with every thought in my head. I stop painting. The air smells of nothing. It's too pure. I take off my glasses. I rub my eyes. And when I look down, my heart stops. My boot prints, they're gone. I look back for the path I took. But the ground is smooth, flawless, as if no one has ever walked here. There's no trace of my entry, no trace of me. I pull out my compass. The needle is spinning frantically, hitting the glass with a desperate metallic click. I snap it shut. I still don't get it. Still think this is a riddle I can solve. But the more I try to measure it, the less it seems to let me. I'm standing here alone, in a sea of amber light, clutching my notebook like a shield. Something in this place is looking at me, but I'm still too busy looking for the right angle to photograph it. I'm frozen. My compass is dead. Just a useless piece of metal that's forgotten where north is. The silence here, it isn't empty. It's a physical weight, a soft pressure on my shoulders, forcing my arms to drop. I close my eyes. I try to find my center. And there, in the dark, that phrase comes back. Nietzsche. It doesn't sound like a memory anymore. It sounds like something repeating itself. If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. I open my eyes. I look at those emerald towers again. I'm not trying to measure them anymore. I'm not trying to figure out what they're made of. For the first time, I just look at them and then it happens. The moment I stop treating them like objects, they respond. The grey glow gets brighter, pulsing at the exact same rhythm as my heart, or slightly ahead of it. I think I'm starting to understand the first rule. Here, the observer is not separate from the world. I sit, my legs can't carry the weight of my own stubbornness anymore. And as I touch the ground, the vibration, it feels familiar, like the sand is trying to tell me a story, one of my scientific brain refused to hear. I run my hand over the grains, no dirt, no mess. It's a purity that feels almost offensive. My whole life has been mud and erosion, but here, erosion doesn't exist. Time doesn't flow forward, it surrounds things, it embraces them, held in something that feels like a permanent pause, not quiet stillness. I pull out my notebook one last time, not for measurements. I open it to a blank page. I look, and what I wrote before, luminous inconsistency, disorientation. It looks ridiculous, like trying to catch the ocean with a butterfly net. I realize now my obsession with control. It wasn't a tool, it was armor. It protected me from feeling how empty my life had become. I spent decades digging up other people's past, just so I wouldn't have to look at my own present. And this place knows, and I'm not sure if it's showing me or chapping me. I look at my tools scattered in the sand. My hammer, my lens, my tape. They look like toys, forgotten by a child who finally grew up. That's the second rule. Here, the more you try to take something, the less remains. The air is changing again. It's not electric anymore. It's sweeter, denser, and the smell. That's what finally breaks me. It doesn't smell like chemicals. It's like my mentor's office 30 years ago. Earl Grey tea, leather bindings, the metallic scent of a desk lamp that's been on all night. It smells like safety, or at least what I remember safety felt like. I feel this wave of fatigue, but it's not from work. It's the fatigue of surrender, the exhaustion of a soldier who drops his gun because he realizes the war ended years ago. The moment I relax, the landscape moves, the mercury clouds part. I see streaks of a sapphire blue, like rivers of peace flowing over my head. The crystal towers, they shift as if they recognize me. They move as if adjusting to me, not as an intruder, but as a part of the painting that finally found its place. I think I understand the third rule. Whatever rules this place, it isn't physics as I know it. If your mind is in a hurry, the world freezes. But if your heart is silent, the world moves. I look at my hands. I'm not reaching for a pen. I'm not trying to justify my existence with a note. I just look at my fingers. They're clean. For the first time in my life, I have nothing to prove. I lie back. I sink into the sand like it's a cloud. I let my full weight go. I let go of that obsessive pattern. I close my eyes and I don't see darkness. I see the color of the painting, deep amber moving behind my eyelids. The ground isn't ground anymore. It's a current carrying me gently. The landscape seems to know where to take me. Back to a moment when knowledge wasn't a race, but an act of wonder. The outside world, the noise, the concrete, it's a distant dream now. The horizon has changed. I'm not in the middle of nowhere anymore. The tower has formed a path, an invitation. And at the end of the path, the air is vibrating with clarity. I know what's there. I know my sanctuary is close. But I don't run, I walk slowly, enjoying every step. I'm learning to swim in this liquid time, and the water feels perfect. But I can't tell if I'm floating or being carried. And finally, that was how we arrived here, to this almost perfect replica of my study, immersed in the depth of this painting. At first, my mind was looking for the trick. I was searching for the seams in the walls, the logic behind a space that shouldn't exist. But this isn't the grey room I left behind in the city. It's not a place of missed deadlines and read emails or those harsh, flickering office lights that drain your vision until your eyes are bone dry. This feels like my sanctuary, the place where, for the first time, work and peace have stopped being enemies. I ran my hand over the desk. It's solid oak, dark and noble. Everything is exactly where I remember it, or where I think I remember it. I can feel the grain of the wood under my fingers. But here, the oak seems to radiate the warmth of a sound that never sets. It smells of beeswax, old paper, and yet it feels slightly too vivid to be just a memory. I stop for a moment just to breathe. Do you know how long it's been since I enjoyed the simple act of inhaling the scent of a room without thinking about the next task? I look around and I smile. My bookshelves are here, thousands of leather-bound volumes glowing under the amber light. I brush my fingers against them, and I feel a jolt of memory, but some of them I don't remember even owning. The one who sat on the floor of a dusty library, not for fame, or for the stupid need to be productive, but for the pure, absolute wonder of the unknown. I'm thinking of an afternoon, right at the start of my career. I had found a fragment of pottery in a dig near the coast. It was small, almost insignificant, but it had a fingerprint pressed into the clay, the print of the person who had shaped that piece 3,000 years ago. In that moment, I froze. I just felt this electric curiosity. Here, in this study, I found the fragment again. It's right there on my table. The fingerprint looks the same, but I can check the feeling it wasn't always there. I can spend hours just touching it now, imagining the life of one who left it without anyone asking me for a technical analysis in return. Somewhere along the way, I started to love this again. I dip my pen into the crystal inkwell. The sound of the metal hitting the button is like a musical note. I draw a line on the map I'm working on. Just one line. And I stay there, watching the black ink melt into the fiber of the paper. If it takes me 10 years to complete this map, I don't know if time here will even notice. Do you know what I notice most now? The arrival of the night. Before I entered this place, the night was a reminder of everything I hadn't achieved. I used to go to bed with my jaw clenched, heart racing with anxiety I couldn't even name. I fought my own exhaustion as if it were a weakness. But here, I understand that sleep is a part of the discovery. The darkness here doesn't feel like absence, it feels like something closing in gently. I appreciate the weight of my eyelids when the amber light of the study begins to dim. I don't fight my body anymore. I enjoy the feeling of thinking into the sheets, knowing that tomorrow the map will still be there, waiting for me. With the same patience this painting has had for me. Sometimes I look out the window. Outside, the clouds of the painting move with a slowly that calms my nerves. I see the melted clocks in the sand and they give me peace, even if I still don't understand what they are doing. Time here has stopped being a boss that screams at me. Now, it's a companion walking beside me. I'm no longer an archaeologist chasing the shadow in the dry earth. I'm a man who enjoys the touch of paper, the curve of a letter. I enjoy the pause between two thoughts. And above all, I enjoy knowing that resting isn't giving up. It's just taking a breath so I can enjoy it all again tomorrow. The fire in the hearth is dying down. The embers have that soft orange glow, just like my breathing. I'm preparing for rest, but not because I'm exhausted. I'm doing it because it's the perfect moment to dream about the work I'll continue when I wake. I think the greatest work of art might be this: learning how to stay in a moment without needing to live it. Even if I'm not sure what happens, if I stay too long, I'll stay here just a moment longer. Watching the last night of the day dance on the wood of my desk. The archaeologist had found his place, and the man is learning how to stay. I let my head down on the old oak of my desk. The wood was warm. It felt as if it had been waiting for me to finally yield. I didn't fight the heaviness of my eyelids this time. I didn't reach for one last map, and I didn't try to scribble one last observation in my journal. I simply let go. I let the amber light of the study dissolve into velvet darkness. I awoke to the heat of a campfire, taking the cold night air. The transition was seamless, like a thought passing from one mind to another without making a sound. I wasn't in the study anymore. I was back, outside. The rooms, which for years had seemed like a hostile labyrinth of secrets, they look different tonight. They weren't puzzles that needed to be solved by my intellect anymore. They were just stones, resting under the civil gaze of the moon. They didn't look like a burden of history or an academic responsibility. They looked like they were finally at peace, exactly as I was. I stood up slowly and walked back toward the great stone wall, to the exact spot where my fingers had first touched the warm, shifting oil. But there was nothing. The wall was just stone, cold and yielding. The painting had moved on. It had vanished as quietly as it had arrived, leaving no trace, no mark for an archaeologist like me to find. The doorway was gone, and the room beyond it had taken its warmth with it. I sat back down by the fire, watching the orange embers pulse like a low heartbeat. My entire career, I thought the treasure was something I could hold in my hands and put it in a glass box. But sitting here, I realized the painting wasn't a relic to be captured. It was a moment to be lived. The greatest adventure of my life wasn't unearthing the past. It was learning to let my eyes rest. It was learning to trust the dreams that wait in the dark. Now, long after that adventure, I find myself coming back to this place. It's become a quiet pilgrimage I make when the world gets too loud. I walk among the same stones, letting my fingers trace the cold surface of the wall, searching for that ripple in the rock that once felt like fresh paint. I stand here for hours sometimes, just wondering. I wonder where that piece of art is now. Whose eyes is it watching at this very moment? What the other exhausted soul it is hosting in that study bathed in amber light? I know it was real. I can still feel the gas of the warmth in my fingertips, even if the stone refuses to admit it. Knowing that some treasures aren't meant to be kept in museums, they are meant to be lived and then lost. I still love my work, but I know now the maps and the dust are only beautiful because they are part of a larger story. A story that includes the pause and the brief. I've recovered the most precious artifact I will ever find, my own right to be still. The fire is going out tonight. The embers are glowing a soft, rhythmic amber, fading slowly into the cool blue of the night. The wind moved through the stones, whispering that the search doesn't need to rush anymore. I look at my hands, and one last time before the light disappears. They're still. They're no longer terrible with the gas of a deadline. They're just hands that know when it is time to lay down the tools. The archaeologist still remembers the light. He remembers the study, the melting clocks, and the piece of the canvas. And for tonight, that is enough. I feel the weight of the rest coming back to me, not as an enemy, but as an old friend. I close my eyes, and I can still see the golden glow in my memory. A reminder of the place that let me in when I had nowhere else to go. I let myself fall into the silence. The story has returned home. And for the first time in a long while, I don't feel the need to follow it. But sometimes, when the night is quiet enough, I can still feel something just beyond the wall.